All right, let's get the session started. Hello, everybody. My name is Evelina, and today I will be your trainer for our Gold FFX training. Thank you for joining our this month's public session. So, I guess a little bit about myself. When I'm not doing these trainings, I'm part of the help desk team, which is the team that you have first point contact with when you need assistance. So let's talk about a little bit what this session is going to be about. Before we do that, actually, I hope everyone can see my screen. Please let me know otherwise if you cannot. So if you have any questions throughout the session, please use the Q&A feature at the very bottom. So any questions throughout the session, just send them through. If we have time at the very end of the session, we'll go through those questions. If not, no worries, we will get back to you via email. But any issues, or if you can't hear me or see my screen, please let me know straight away. So, what the session is going to be about, we are essentially going to be mostly focusing on the home module. So, this list of modules right here, I'll be going through each and every one of them, but the majority of the session will be based on home module since that is the foundation of the system. So we will be talking about how we can search our database. I will be talking about the different types of documents that you see in front of you, how we can build folders, how we can populate those folders with the materials that you search, how we can run different types of reports for our manifest, editing volumes, as well as we'll also go over an overview of a risk assessment module. And then these ones, if we have time at the very end, that will take only 5 minutes or so. So Chemwatch has many packages that are offered. The more basic package that we have is Backpack, and the standard one is Gold FFX, which this session is going to be about. We do also have Camera Riders, which is our more advanced package, and that includes a few extra modules and functionalities, but we won't be focusing on that today. And yeah, so let's just get this started with. So now I'll be describing everything that you see in front of your screen, starting with the bottom right hand corner over here. So the first tab that we have is our Chemwatch Entourage. What this is essentially is how you can get in contact with our different teams. So for example, here we've got customer service, here is help desk. So if I just click on that, you can essentially either call or email our teams. However, this feature isn't live, so and only our bigger clients essentially use these. So I would just recommend to use the live help chat. What live help chat is, it's a feature that is available 24/7. So during Australian working hours, you will be talking to one of us. After Australian working hours, another team hops on. So again, it's a service available 24/7. And what this is, so this first just asks you to fill out or answer a couple of questions. So what type of product are you looking for? Um, other Can I please transfer you to one of my colleagues who can chat to you about this? So this one, just yes. And now it just gives me, I guess, a little form to fill out. So a couple of details. So for example, what's the subject? I can do training, name, Chemwatch trainer as an example. The phone number is optional. Here we can do, I'll just come up at training.com, for example. And finally, your login account and username. Where you can find these details is so just at the top right corner of your screen next to the logout icon. So here, this is my account or domain name, and this is my username. Why that is useful for you to know where those details are so you can fill them in here, is because when we are talking with you and we need to troubleshoot something from our side, we do need these details. So I can just do training and say Gold FFX. Now, once I've filled that in, I can send through a message. Hi, testing. Can do like a little work. And essentially someone from our team will join the chat. So for example, here is Arlene, and you can continue on with the conversation. When we are talking to you and there is, I guess, an issue that we cannot resolve on the spot, that issue will get escalated as a ticket to the appropriate teams. So, for example, if it's a question in regards to regulations or a chemistry-based question, we obviously will not be able to answer that on the spot. So then we escalate it as a ticket to the appropriate teams and then get back to you via email. So that's essentially how the live help chat works. Now, going to the top left corner of the screen, just over here. So here we have another live help chat icon. It is exactly the same as this one here, just so you don't miss it. Then we have our settings icon. So everyone will have access to settings. However, depending on your level of access given to you by your domain administrator or the main contact who is responsible for giving you permissions and privileges, this will depend. So a very basic user will essentially may only have the option to change their password, and that's it. Whereas a more advanced user, they'll have more access to more settings. So again, that depends on what level of access you're given by your administrator. Then we have the user interface language. So if I click on that and say I can just choose, let's choose Danish. What this will do is it will just translate everything that I see in front of me into the language that I chose. So, but we will go back to English. There you go. And here we go. And now finally, just to cover the icons on the right hand side of your screen. So beginning with a tour. So what this is, if you click on it, it will walk you through kind of what everything is. So it will just explain what these modules are, what this icon is, for example, and so on. So essentially what I'm doing right now, but if you're a new user, this is a good feature just to try out if you're not sure what these icons are. Then we have our glossary. So our glossary has something around close to 300,000 terms in it. If you're not sure what a specific term means on an SDS, for example, you can just search this up here and it'll give you a definition. Then we have our e-learning. So our e-learning is another excellent way to get used to the system a bit more. So we have our applications in our e-learning as well as modules. So our applications are more thorough videos, so they're a bit longer. So for example, if you click on the Gold FFX one, that will be, I think, 40 minutes or so. This is, so if I just click on it as an example to show you. So it's talking to me in my ear, so it will just essentially just guide you. And let's say I just go to this section right here. So this video will actually allow me to click on these little arrows and it will tell me what each of these means. So again, it's a voice talking to me in my headphones, but essentially this is an excellent way again to get to know the system a bit better. And once you do complete these, they will give you a certificate of completion, which you can provide to your domain administrator. And these videos you actually can't skip, so you have to start them from the start to the end. I was allowed to skip it just because I've already seen it, but when you are watching it for the first time, you need to watch it from the very start to the very end. We also have, say, a GHS, an introduction to a GHS video. We get a lot of questions about what GHS is, and it stands for Globally Harmonized System. So essentially, it is an attempt to synthesize how we communicate hazards throughout the world. Most of the countries around the world have adopted this framework, but different countries will have different revisions for it. For example, our neighbours, New Zealand, they follow the same GHS standards as us. However, they may have, as an example, different dangerous good data shown on their labels. So that is just an idea of what GHS is. And our modules, there are shorter videos on more specific topics. So for example, if I want to know how we can search for a material, I can just click on this and it'll be a short demonstration of how you can do that. How we can create folders. This is our UI main toolbar. So again, you can use this one, risk assessment. The rest of these, a lot of these are reserved for the domain administrators. So for example, setting up a user, a basic user would not need to know how to do that. But again, there's a couple of videos that basic users can watch on here. And then finally, we have our translation. So for our GoldFFX video, you can just watch it in the translated language that you choose. After our e-learning, we have our weekly bulletin. So we just give an option if you'd like to subscribe to it, you can do it through here. Then we have our help guide. Our help guide is another resource that you can use. So if you're more of a reader than just a listener, so the e-learning videos, you can just skip to the section here and it'll walk you through how to say, let's go search for a folder. For example, if I'm just wondering how we can do that, this will walk me through step by step, as well as there will be a screenshot with steps how you can do that. You can also search for a specific chapter, for example, but as you can see, there is quite a lot to go through. So if it is a bit too much, just get in contact with us through the live help chat and we can send you the appropriate resources as well as the appropriate chapters. It'll just be a bit easier on you. Then we have our Chem College. So our Chem College is another resource that we provide. It is quite a new resource. Essentially, it's just when you would do short little courses. So for example, I know that we have one on what each section of an SDS means. So how you can read an SDS. And you essentially just complete them in your own time whenever you need extra assistance. And each user will receive their individual login to this function if you would like to use it. And then finally, we have our manual. So our manual is very long, 622 pages. So I would just not even touch this unless you are wanting to read through it. But it is a very heavy document. So again, just get in contact with us and we will send you the chapters individually or whatever you're after. But otherwise, it is quite long and it can, I guess, overwhelm you. And then again, to reiterate, is just that we've got the Chemwatch Training and GoldFFX. That's my account name or domain name, as well as my username. So when I log out, this is the screen that I see, or when I have to log in. So here, you just put in your domain name, so your company name, your username, and then your password. Here you will see any upcoming product training that we have. So this is where you would have registered for this month's training. And any upcoming webinars you can also register for them just over here. Our skill level, what that is if I press on the second tab, you can see that it will jump to backpack. If I go even further back, it will give me backpack light. And then if I go to the third one, it is GoldFFX. So if you're a user who can switch between the different levels, you can do this here or when you log in. However, so if I just press on my second one and I would just need to, what's my password? Log in. Now you can see that the fact that I picked the second tab, the system switched to backpack straight away. So again, you can do this here. That is essentially what this is. So you're just switching levels. So the third one is GoldFFX. The fourth one is Chemwatch, but I don't think this account even has access to it. And then the first one is our most basic one, which is Backpack Lite. And if you're a basic user, you may only have access to either Backpack Lite or Backpack. Again, depending on what your domain administrator gives you. So now just to quickly go through the modules and give a short overview of them. So what do I mean when I say modules? It is essentially just this strip of icons. You'll notice that we do refer to, say, risk assessment as risk assessment module, or when we ask where you are at, we'll ask you which module are you in. So home module, this is where your manifest resides. This is so where you store your chemicals, you build your folder structures and populate the folders. Risk assessment, we have two types of risk assessment modes. We have ILO, which is associated with health implications, and we have UN, which is to do with items classified as dangerous goods and their storage. DGen Lab is a module that allows you to create your own labels. So for example, if you're pouring one mixture, say acetone, into another container and you want to create a new label for that new container, you can do this here. You can also create QR codes. So for example, when you scan them, it will give you a link either to the vendor SDS, or you can actually create a folder QR code, or what we call a chemical advisory safety report. Credo module is where you create your own mixtures and solutions. So for example, if you're storing mixture on the shelf and you would like to keep record of it, you can make a label for this, as well as a mini document. And I will explain what a mini document is shortly. And finally, so request module. This is essentially where you can upload vendor SDSs, so send them to our teams for upload. Our system does have a lot of vendor SDSs, but you might come across that sometimes we won't have that specific product that you're looking for, either by that specific vendor or we don't have the latest SDS. Since our system is not bulletproof, our teams do regular updates. So on a quarterly basis, our teams will go through our whole database and update the materials, whichever ones our vendors send to. However, if you do have a vendor SDS on you, you can use this module to actually send it to our teams. And that is what we will recommend through the live help chat. And system dashboard, I wouldn't worry about that too much. You can just create widgets and see your data in kind of like graphs. And Chemwatch we won't talk about. So let's get started, and now we'll just focus on home module. So just begin to talk about this panel right here. So starting with the simple. We have two types of searches in our system. So we have the full search and we have own search. The difference between the two is if you're wanting to search our full database for a new material that you don't have in your folders yet, so you need to be switched to full. Whereas if you search within own, this will search within the materials that you have already added to your folders right here. So if you're wanting to add a new material, but you have it switched to own, the system will show you that you don't have it in your folders. So you can search by material name, CAS number, or Chemwatch number. So CAS number and Chemwatch number, so they're unique identifiers for a product. And as you get to use the system a bit more, you'll notice that each material has their own specific Chemwatch number assigned to it. And that's how we also identify products within our system. And you can search either by the drop down option that comes here or by the loop icon. Here we have our country and language filters. So mine is set to Australian English by default, but you can set it to any country if you'd like. So you can either switch to any or change the country here. What this does is when you search for a specific material, this will filter it for only Australian and English SDSs. So when we're searching for Australian SDSs, we don't really want to see, say, Italian or Chinese SDSs. We want to see specifically Australian ones. So this will help you filter the search. Then going down lower, these are our different types of documents. So first, we have our vendor SDS. So when you're searching in the full database, you need to make sure that you're always switched to vendor SDS. And why is that? Because we know that a vendor SDS is a manufacturer safety data sheet for the product sold in the global marketplace. So it is a legal document that follows all the regulations and meets compliance requirements. Whereas Gold SDS, these are our own documents. So it's a Chemwatch independently authored safety data sheet, which contains the latest regulatory compliance classifications. But please note that they're not a substitute for your vendor SDS. So again, when you're searching the full database, please make sure that you have it switched to vendor SDS. Labels. So if you switch to labels, it will show you a number of default templates that Chemwatch has already created for you to use. And a mini SDS, it is another one of our documents, but it is a one-page summary document. So it's a very useful document to use, nice and easy to read. But again, please note that this is our own document. So under this button, if I just click on this, we also have our emergency reports. I will show you what they will look like. But for example, we've got specific ones for first aid, standard operating procedure, advice to doctor, and so on. So as soon as I add a material to my folder, I will show you what these look like. And then going down lower, this is where you'll be creating your folder structure. So as you can see, so if I just collapse this, these folders are created by default in every Chemwatch account. And if you would like to see the subfolders, you just need to expand it with this little white triangle. And essentially, you're just creating your manifest under here. So let's go through how we can create a folder. So to create a folder first, under the manifest, I just have to right click and hit create. This is the screen that comes on. So what we need to do is we just need to type in the folder name. So for that one, I will type in Australia. So this will be my first parent folder. So for this specific folder, we have two different types of folder types. So we have the storage folder, which are green, and we have the administrator folders, which are gray. The difference between the two is that administrator folders tend to not store materials within them. So for example, for my Australia folder, I don't want anyone adding materials to it. So what I can do is I can just click on the administrator folder and the option to store materials gets unticked. Yes, I can manually tick this folder, but since I don't want anyone adding materials to it, I'll just save it like this. Then we hit save. And we can see that we get a message that folder will remain gray whilst empty. So this is a message specifically for storage folders. Then to create my second step of the folder or my next subfolder, again, I right click on the folder that I just created and click create. And this time, I want to create a folder called Melbourne Warehouse. This one, I do want it to be a storage folder. So I'll just change the type to storage, make sure that this option is ticked, and then click save. And if I expand it, I can see I've got my two steps of the structure that I want to build. Finally, I'm just going to create my last level. So again, I right click on Melbourne Warehouse, click create, and I just do say room 1. Make sure that it's storage, store materials. And at the same level, I'm just going to create a second room. So room 2, storage, perfect. So let's just hit create. So this is the folder structure that I've just created. This is how detailed I want it to be. So when creating your folder structure, you can make it one folder level. You can make it as specific as 5 levels to your folder structure. So whatever kind of you prefer to do or whatever your company's requirements are, you can do it. So you don't have to follow this specific structure. So now that I've created my folder structure, let's go ahead and search for material to add. So first, let's just type in, and we're going to be searching for acetone. So when I search for my material, I'll either get a drop-down option here, so which I can click on the first result here, or I can just click on the loop icon. Before I do this, I want to make sure, so I'm set to full, Australian English are set, and most importantly, I'm searching for my vendor SDS. So let's hit search and see what comes up. So this is what the first screen that I see when I search for my acetone. So as you can see, I have over 1,000 results for my acetones. So how do I actually pick the one that I'm looking for? So first, I just want to show what will happen if I add the material from this specific view. So I can see that I've got acetone here, looks good. So let's just say I add it to my folder. So to add to my folder, what I can do is I can right click, copy, right click, paste. I do get this message. So it says that there are multiple vendors for this chemical. Would you like to make a selection? Let's just say I press no for this time. So I can see that material has been copied successfully. And if I go to my folder, I can see that I did add my acetone. However, if I click on it to open my vendor SDS, I can see that there's no document found. So essentially what I've just done is I added the material incorrectly and I added a vendorless version of it. So as you can see where the vendor column is, you can't actually see the manufacturer's name or the vendor's name. So what I've done is I've added just a gold SDS to my folder, which I want to try not to be doing. So when you're adding materials to your folders, you do want to make sure that they're vendor SDSs. So let's just, this is an easy fix. If you do this, you can just press on this green plus button and add the vendor directly from the folder. You can also search for the material and add it the correct way, but we'll just try add it from the folder first. So country is Australia, language is English. So I do have lots of vendors to choose from for my acetone, but let's just say for this one, I'm after Merck or Sigma Aldrich. For my document, I can see that I've got the very latest one is 2024. So this is the one that I want to be adding. If I do scroll down, I can see that it's the older versions. So you want to add the first one up here. And if I hit save, this is the message that I get. So would you like to remove root or vendorless record and replace it with the selected item? And this time click yes. So now as soon as I do that, you can see that I now have my vendor name populated here, as well as if I click on the material now, I can actually open my vendor SDS. So how do we then add it to the folder correctly? So if I search for my acetone again, to get the same view where we were, what I now need to do is just click on the first result that I have. So you will see that again, there's lots and lots of acetones. I don't know why my country is actually disappeared. I must have accidentally cleared them. let's just go quickly English. There you go. So again, we've got over 1,000 results for my acetone. So how do I know which one to pick? Just pick the first version, because the first version will be the pure version of the material. If you can see that these ones are a variety of acetone, so either they'll have acetone in their name or it'll be a diluted version, so 80% acetone. So just simply click on the first acetone again. And what that will give me is that will give me the list of all the vendor SDSs for my Australian SDSs for acetone. So now you can see that this view looks different. I can see my vendor SDSs, and most importantly, I can see the issue dates. So a little trick that I always tell clients is that when you're adding material, make sure you can see the issue date column. So that's when you know that you're adding it from the correct view. So now I can just scroll through. I can see that I've got 343 acetones that I can choose from. In this case, let's go for, say, my chem supply one. So 2024, that sounds good. So let's just add it in. So we added it via right-click copy, right-click paste. We can also add it in a different way, which is called dragging and dropping. So how we can do that, just grab the material and drag it over your folder. And you can see that I've copied it successfully. So now, if I go to my room 2, I have a preferred name set to it, which will get confusing. Let me just quickly remove that. There you go. So now I've copied my acetone and I can see that I've added it in correctly. So I've got my Chem Supply Australia here and I can see the issue date below it. Let's just add one more material, which is, oh, spelled benzene wrong, my benzene, and add that one in to my folders. So I'll just quickly go through these options here and I'll explain to them what they are. So these are our vendor filters. Different users will have a differently set. Again, so everyone will be different depending on your preference. But what these are is this gives you the option to filter by the specific vendor. So if you're searching by benzene and you're looking for, say, I don't know if Chem Supply has one. Let's have a look. There you go. So if I'm searching for a specific vendor SDS for a material, I can see if I can filter it further by this vendor filter. So if I click on this and apply, this will give me the option to see all the Chem Supply ones. I think we might not have pure versions of my benzene, maybe. But so another thing that we can do is untick this option here, grouping by Chemwatch number. Essentially, what that does is all of these materials with the same Chemwatch number, they'll be grouped under one kind of category. So if I untick this, so here I've got, you can see that they've actually kind of ungrouped themselves. So just be aware of this option here, depending on if it's set or not. I do prefer to have this set. It's a little bit easier to work with, so then I can click on it and see the different types of products that I have under the same Chemwatch number. So if you can see, this one's only just one. But I think I will just untick my Chem Supply and add a random version. So again, just click on the pure version of benzene, since I've got grouping by Chemwatch number set. And let's just choose a random one. So let's go 2022. Let's just have a look if this one is good for us. The Australian National University. I think that should be all good. Yep, cool. That looks good. Let's just add this one. So again, just drag and drop to my folder. So now if I go to my Melbourne warehouse, so I can see the combination of my two subfolders. I can see that I've got 2 acetones in each of the folders and 1 benzene. So that is how you add a material to your folders. Now let's go through the different types of documents, and I'll show you how each of these look like. So to open up a vendor SDS, all you need to do is just click on the material and make sure that this in the SDS and labels panel is set to vendor SDS. So here's our vendor SDS. Nothing special. Sure, if you've already worked with them, so it's just a manufacturer's legal document um, made up of 16 sections. So here you go. I'm just having a look through it. Yep, that looks good. So if I would like to open up a Gold SDS, all I need to do is just switch to my Gold SDS in the SDS and labels panel. So if I go ahead and switch to that, and if there is a Gold SDS available for that document, it will open up. So this is what our Gold SDS looks like. It is made up of 16 sections, just like a vendor SDS. I can click on this little icon to actually skip to the specific section. So let's just say transport, and it will just jump to this section right here. So I'll just go back up. With Gold SDS, we do give a little bit of freedom in terms of editing them, so you can kind of change how they look a little bit, give them preferred names. So these are just advanced settings. You can pick and choose what you see, so you can display format you can choose from short to long, for example. But you'll notice that our Gold SDSs, they're color coded based on this Chemwatch hazard alert code. So in this case, acetone is rated as a 3, and it is orange color, so you can see that it is color coded in orange. We do also have our Chemwatch hazard ratings. So this is based on these 5 categories of flammability, toxicity, body contact, directivity, and chronic. And they're rated from 0 being minimum to 4 being the extreme. And that is essentially Gold SDS. So you will also notice that Gold SDSs have more information than a vendor SDS, and they are usually rated higher than a vendor SDS. So we have a lot of clients coming to us and saying that, a Gold SDS, it's saying something completely opposite to a vendor SDS. That's not correct. Our teams do their own research. We have a team of chemists that write these SDSs, and they're essentially, again, our own documents. So think of these documents as a worst case scenario document. If, say, you want to have a look at the information for spills and be extra cautious, or see what precautions you need to take, you can just look at a Gold SDS. But that is it. And the cool thing about Gold SDS is you can also translate them to other languages. So for example, if I choose China, it will switch automatically to Chinese. If it is a country that follows a different system, so for example, let's have a look, Belgium. So Belgium, all the European countries, they follow REACH. So this will also switch automatically. And if you'd like to print or download the document, you can do this directly. If you just click print or download, it will just render the document. So I won't actually do that. I'll just interrupt it. And then switching to our mini SDS. We'll show, whoop, that did try to download. We'll show you what that looks like. So a mini SDS, again, that is, it's our own document, but it is a 1-page summary document. So as you can see, I've got all the information, majority of it just on the 1 page. So I can see that I've got my ingredients, I've got the GHS information as well as dangerous good information. I can see that I've got my hazard statements, signal word, and precautions to use, so my PPE, and if I need to have any equipment on. What else do we have? We've got emergency pictograms here. We've also got first aid, as well as the safe storage with other classified chemicals. So I can see that for my acetone, you can't store them with explosives, for example. And again, it is color coded based on the Chemwatch hazard alert code. So this is what we call a regular mini. We do also have a GHS mini. It's just, I guess, a little bit more focused on precautionary statements, and it's a little bit less focused on the visual aspect, like a regular mini. So I guess whatever you prefer to use. So these ones you can see that we're focusing on precautionary statements of general, prevention, response, storage, and disposal. But again, this is information generated from the Gold SDS. And you can, again, translate this to a different language if you would like to. There you go. And finally, for labels, if I just click on that, I can see that I've got my default labels and I've got 5 pages of those. So these are all the label templates that Chemwatch provides for you to use. So say we've got ones for different scenarios. So we've got GHS 1 per A4. We've also got GHS plus transport. If I skip to another page, I've got country-specific ones as well. But to generate a label, so I can see, so if I just click on this this magnifying glass, I can see that this is what it would look like. And then to generate it, this one requires me to input a volume. This is how it would look like. So here you go, I got my acetone, and I've just got a basic GHS, so 1 per A4 page label. And then I can go ahead, I can again translate to a different language, then I can either print or download. But that is essentially different types of documents. And in terms of labels, so those we went through the default templates. If you are looking to edit a default template or create one from scratch, you do this in DGen Lab. As I mentioned before, and I'll show that if we have time at the end, how we can do that. Now to just go through these different types of columns and what they mean. So the first column here is just, this is our select column. So if we have multiple materials here, I can just either pick and choose, or if I want to select all of them that I see on my page, I can just click on the very top one and it'll select all of them. Here we have our track button. So this is a tool that you can use to track your materials to their specific locations. So for example, if I switch to own and I'm searching for benzene, I can see that I have lots and lots of benzenes in my folders already. So I think the one that we have in our folder is the Australian National University. So if I just click on this tracker button, which you can see when you search from own, it is gray. So why that is useful to know is, say you're looking to delete a material. So you search for it in your own, and to delete a material, you right click, and you would usually press remove. In this case, however, in order to delete a material or remove it from the folder, you need to be in the exact folder where it's located. So you can see that this option is actually grayed out. So what I can do is I can just click on this track button and it will highlight the folder where it's at. So if I just click on my room 2, I can see that now the track button is green. When it is red, that means you're in the wrong location. And again, even if I click remove, I can see that this is the message that the system gives. Material has not been deleted because material is not in current folder. So again, just click on it and go to the specific folder where it's located. We also do have an orange color of the tracker button, and that essentially means that it is in the specific folder as well as another one. The hazard icon. So again, this is color coded. So as you get to work with materials more, you'll get to a bit more used to the different colors and what they mean. So acetone, if I just click on this hazard icon, just delete that one. I can see that I've just got a summary of my hazardous information here. So again, it's rated as a 3. I can see I've got the dangerous good information here, Chemwatch hazard ratings, hazard statements, as well as my pictograms. My benzene, however, it is rated as a 4 and therefore color coded as red. So again, that is the highest rating in our category, out of our categories, and you can see all the information summarized here. Then we have the material name just here, so pretty self-explanatory. We've got the vendor issue date just here. And for Australian SDSs, you need to make sure that they're within 5 years of the issue date. So you can see that this one's 2024, this one's 2022, so we're good to use them. The extraction date, don't worry about it too much. That's usually just means when we have extracted the data from the vendor SDS and therefore given this little classification to the material. So you can see the vendor classification extracted by Chemwatch is available. And I'll explain what that does a little bit later. Then we have the vendor. So this would just be written here. This is our volume column. So you can input the volume by clicking on this pencil icon. And let's just say for my current volume, I will do 200. But for my maximum volume, how much should I do? I will do 100. Oh, actually, I think if I do 150, this will not allow me to do it, just because, again, the maximum volume should be more than the current volume. So let's just do 250. Save. And you can switch from current to maximum and license. So here I can see which one I've put in. Then we have the country column, the language column. This is the dangerous good class column, UN number, as well as the CAS number. So any CAS numbers associated with this material, they will be shown here. So it's okay if some materials don't have a CAS number, that is not wrong. But you'll see that some will have one, some will have none, and some will have many. So with these columns right here, we can actually also kind of customize our view or our grid view of what we see. If I right click on the dark grid here and click on this columns, hover my mouse over the columns, I can actually pick and choose which ones I want to see. So for example, part number I want to add, country language I can remove just because I know that I'm only adding Australian and English SDSs. I can also add a note, and let's do risk hazard statement. Now that I'm happy with that, I can also move them around. So say dangerous good class goes here, UN number goes here, CAS number. So say I'm happy with that. So you can see how you can kind of customize your viewer a little bit, and this is customizable per user. So with these columns, you can also filter your materials. So for example, if I want to search for a specific material, I can click on this folder. I can click on this little filter icon and type in acetone. What this allows me to do is I can use it via own search, but again, it will just show me all of my acetones through all my folders. But then if I want to see if I have a specific one in my folder, it will highlight me this material. You can also categorize them in alphabetical order. So say, and then the opposite. You can also do them in order of the vendor name. You can also filter it by specific hazards as an example, and you kind of get the gist. So that is our different types of columns. And please note, so if I go to my backpack, if I go to my backpack light, I'll just show you the difference. So our backpack light, again, is the most simple view, and it does look different. And as a very basic user, you may only have access to this view. And please note, you can't actually change these columns. So this is available only with higher levels. And to view the documents, I guess this view is a bit more simplified. So you can just click on these icons here and it will open up. I can see I've got my hazard, dangerous good column, regulatory burden, and volume column. So I just want to show you the difference between that. Oh, I did forget to show a couple of reports, which were our emergency reports. So if I just expand my button here, so say let's go advice to doctor. If I click on advice to doctor and click on material, what the system will do is it will generate a document with the information that's needed for the doctor to know. So for example, if someone accidentally drinks acetone, not sure why they would do that, but you can quickly generate this and then give it to the doctor, and they will know all the precautions they need to take. Similarly, we have spills. So for example, in case of a spill, you can just generate this and it will tell you what to do and what precautions to take. China, so this isn't a country, this is a chemical incidental report, if I'm not mistaken. So we've got firefighting, standard operating procedure, toxicological. We've also got a transport document here as well. For Australia, this is a RG. And then additional ones, we've just got say a 3D molecule or monographs. So if you're wanting to see a 3D molecule of acetone, you can do this here. That is our emergency reports. So again, just hidden under here. And now let's go through our different types of filters that we have here. So probably at about 11 a.m., we're going to take a short, like 5-7 minute break. Let me know what you prefer, and then we'll come back to continue our session. So we'll do that at 11 a.m. So for our filters, we do have our advanced filters just hidden here. So I do have a lot more options than a usual user would, just because I'm a domain administrator. So if you're a basic user, you might only have access to the top hazards and the dangerous goods filters. Some of them you also don't need to use because they're for other specific countries. So for example, Sarah is for America. We've got Japan for Japan. Reach is for Europe, just an example. But for example, if I click on my manifest just to see all my folders, I can see that I've got 384 materials. If I click on my hazards and I want to filter it by, say, corrosives, let's see how many that gives me. That gives me a lot. Okay, let's have a look, maybe more of a different one. Let's go, maybe, okay, let's go carcinogens. Okay, there you go. So for my carcinogens, out of 334, I think that I had, I only have 7 that are carcinogens. I can do the same thing with my dangerous goods. So with my specific classes, I can see which ones say are oxidizers. And I can see that only one material out of over 300 materials is identified as an oxidizer. You can also do which ones are dangerous. So for all the classes, which ones are non-hazardous as an example. And the same thing with which ones, if you want to see all your hazardous materials. Then going down, I want to show you this report, which we call incompatibility report. What this report does is it compares the dangerous good classes of your materials with each other, and it lets you know whether you can safely store materials together or whether you need to take certain segregation requirements. So let's just have a look. So for example, for my first one, dangerous good class 2.1, dangerous good class 2.3, so these materials here, you need to segregate them for at least 3 meters. If I hover my mouse over this eye icon, I can see that there's more information provided here. If I keep scrolling down, see what other precautions we need to take, we can see that we have a lot of these classes right here. So for example, these ones, I'm guessing, yep, same dangerous good class, they're compatible, class F. And for example, with this one, dangerous good class 2.1 and dangerous good class 3, you need to segregate them for at least 5 meters. So you can run this report per your location just to make sure which materials can or can't be stored together. Because some materials, so for example, you need 5+ meters, you also do require to separate them in different buildings. I don't think I have one shown here. This is a long report, but if I scroll all the way down to it, I also have supplementary notes. So you can see that it's just extra information provided for you to use, but I would highly recommend to use this report here if you're storing hazardous materials in your locations. Then the next one I want to show, actually, if I quickly just 200 liters. For this acetone, I'm just gonna put in 2,500 just for my next demonstration. The next report that we have is our play carding report, and I will also show manifest quantity report. What these reports are is if I just, so before this session, I've just searched up Schedule 11 play carding and manifest quantities table. So this is for WHS model for regulations. And you can see that here, based on the different hazard classes and the hazard categories, we have two types of columns. We have our play carding quantity and we have our manifest quantity. So in this case, I will be demonstrating the hazard class of flammable liquid, category 2. So my fourth column, sorry, says that this is the threshold for this specific category. So if I exceed this specific threshold, 250 liters, I will need to play card that location. So let's just say I run this report. I did put in quite a high amount. Let's just see what the system gives me. So the system will highlight the location or locations that you need to play card. In this case, for this specific location, I need to play card it with this specific pictogram. So if I can expand it, I can see that this is this material, and I've exceeded the threshold. The play card quantity threshold. Whereas my column 5, this is the manifest quantity threshold, and in this case, the threshold is 2,500 liters. So if I just turn this filter off, now I can see that I've got 2,000. Actually, if I do not 2,500, but just so I'm under, let's just do 2,000. Wrong one. I'll do 2,400, just so I will be 100% under the threshold. So I can see for this acetone, I have 2,400 liters, which is not 2,500, so I should be fine. And at this room, I have, same room. This room, I have only, I think 250 liters. So at both of these locations, I'm not exceeding the threshold or my manifest quantity threshold. However, what I can do to check is if I go to this location here, since this is the parent location of these two rooms, and combine the two volumes, that I know that I'm over the threshold. So what I can do is I click, go to folder properties, and in this case, I can designate this as my manifest facility area. I can go click save. Now, if I run my manifest quantity report, if this highlights this station as red, which it did in this case, the program is telling me that I've exceeded my threshold and a manifest notification is required. So if I just expand this here, I can see that I've exceeded with these two materials, so products, that this are my two acetones. And in this case, I need to print out a report and send it to my local emergency services or my local firefighters. So if I just go to print this report, this is the report that the system gave me, and I can see that I can put in my business name, my emergency contact, and it highlights, so I am over this threshold with this specific materials. And essentially you just send them off to them just so they're aware in case of an emergency situation. This is the products that they would be working with and how much you have um, at your location. So that is our manifest quantity report. And if you're storing high amounts of volume, I highly recommend to run this report. Okay, so now we're finished with our reports. We don't have too much to cover for home. However, it is 11, so let's just take a short 7-minute break. Actually, we'll take a short 5-minute break. So come back at 11:05 and we'll continue the session. All right, welcome back, everyone. Hope that was a nice, although short break, but I hope it was a nice little break. So let's continue. So we've just gone through the different types of filters that you can use in our system. So now we'll just cover these icons here. So how we can print, how we can download, and how we can run reports on our materials. So first, we'll just go through the print icon. So what I can do is I can either, again, choose my materials with the select tool here, or I can just choose all of them. For now, let's just choose all of them. So if I click my print icon, I get a couple of options. So I can have my list, material list, and then I can also do my specific SDSs. So let's just first do, say, a material list. If I just click that and submit, the system will essentially just give me a PDF version of what I see in front of me. So I have my hazard column, my cat name, CAS number, hazard codes, volume that I've put in, UN number, and my dangerous good class. If I click on my SDSs, so if I would like to print specific documents, if I then click submit straight away, the system will give me this message right here. So what it is asking me, so please select any export type, just select the document that you're after. So I can either choose gold, mini, say vendors, or even labels. In this case, let's go with our vendors, and then we click submit. And the system will just process them, and it will combine them in one PDF file I can then print or download as well. So just quickly wait for that to do. Just taking a bit of time. There you go. So here I've just downloaded the vendor SDS for my products, and I can see that I've got 37 pages in total. So if I keep scrolling, I can see that I've got my different ones. The download option is very similar. So again, you can either download a list, material list. You can also do an external link for your documents. This is specific documents again, so my SDS is in, I can pick the different document types. And we also have this feature which we call offline archives. What this is if you're downloading your SDSs and you would like to have separate files or individual files of them, you can do this with this offline archive feature. And I'll show you how we can do that. So if I just pick this option here, and so we'll just leave it at all. Let's just say I'm wanting to download my vendors and mini documents. Then I can click submit, and the system will generate a external file for me to open. So as soon as it does that, I'll just wait for it to do that. All right, nearly there. Okay, perfect. There you go. So if I just send this file to my downloads, and let's just open it up. Then what I can do is I can right click and extract And this is the result that I get. So I have my index as well as my documents. So if I click on my docs, I can see that I've essentially just downloaded my vendor SDSs as well as my mini SDSs for the products as separate files to my computer. The index, I hope everyone can see my screen here, but what it does is it allows you to essentially search for your documents here. So I can search for my, say, benzene if I have downloaded, say, over 20 or more documents. And if I click on this hyperlink here, it will open up the document that I've downloaded. And you can use this feature, obviously, when you don't have access to the system, as an example, or if the connection is down. So this is an excellent feature that I do usually recommend when it comes to downloading your materials, unless you do want them to be grouped in one PDF file. The share option, so again, you can either choose which document you'd like to share, so say gold, and this will allow you to directly send the SDS or the SDSs that you chose, or the document, sorry. And you can just put in the email that you'd like to send it to directly. For some reason, it's being very slow right now. I think the internet here is a bit slow. We'll just wait a little bit. Okay, so say this right here. So this is what the form would look like. So you can send put in the email here, any subject or comments, and if they want to reply to, you can also add this here and just click send. Finally, we have our report generator. So let's just click on all, or you can also do current page, and we'll click OK. So in report generator, we have two types of tabs. So we have the basic tab and we have the advanced tab. If you're a basic user and you have access to report generator, you may only have access to the basic. The basic is essentially you are able to generate reports and download them in Excel. So they're ready templates for you to use. So for example, if I just choose, say, materials, BGD, and I can see that my format is Excel, any images I download, I can just click on this and then hit download. This will download me a report in Excel. So I hope everyone can see my screen in Excel. And this is what it looks like. So I can see that I have my data points for Chemwatch number, material name, catalog number, vendor, part number. So any part numbers, vendor part numbers or user part numbers will be shown here, and my vendor issue date. We recommend this feature. So if you would like to sort your materials by the vendor issue date, you can do this only within Excel. So once you run a report for your materials, you can then right click and say sort them in a ascending or descending order. And I just wanted to quickly explain. So you can see that we have two of the same reports, so one for gold and one for VGD. What that is just different classifications available for the materials. So you can see that, for example, this acetone, it has both VGD and gold. Gold, it just means that there's a gold document available. VGD, so it's vendor generated data extracted by teams. If a material doesn't have VGD, it can still have a vendor SDS, but again, it just simply means that we've just extracted the data. And if you run a report for, say, gold, but you don't see an icon gold next to a material, that means that that data point will just remain empty for that product. And the difference between advanced is in advanced, you're able to create your own reports or generate your own reports by choosing which data points you want to be included. If I hover my mouse over the plus button here or the add button, I can click on data points. And here I can begin building my report. So say, let's just do material name. Then I can do vendor, say vendor country. Then I can do vendor issue date. Let's see, any GHS. I want to include my GHS classification for VGD. And any, let's do graphics for gold. There's anything else that I'm wanting to include. Instead of searching, you can also just expand these categories and go through them and see what is offered. So let's just go also diamond graphic VGD. Say this is the report that I'm wanting to create. And once I'm finished with that, I can just give it a report name. So what is the training report? What's it doing? Let's just do that on 04. Once you've added your data points, you can also change them around, so the order. Then once you're done, just click create report and it will appear here. So all reports that you create in your advanced tab over time, they will be shown here. So you can choose them from a drop-down option. Then let's just go download images. Excel format is good. And let's click download. So we'll just open up this Excel file and see what we've created. So this looks, I guess, in my opinion, a bit nicer. It has pictograms to also have a look. So, whoop, I think there you go. And I can see this is the report that I've just created, and this is what it looks like. I think I've still got overlapping data points, but that's okay. It's quite a long data point. But this is essentially how Report Generator works. So you can, in Advanced tab, you can create your own reports with the data points that you choose, whereas the Basic tab allows you only to generate reports from the already created ones, and you cannot amend these from your side. Okay, now we're on Report Generator. Let's have a look. What else do we have? All right, so we have, now we'll just quickly go through Advanced Search and Query Builder. And I think then we'll be done with our home module. So if I switched to my Advanced Search, the difference between Simple and Advanced is that in Advanced you can search by different fields. So instead of just the material name and say Chemwatch number and CAS number, if I'm looking to search by a specific vendor, so say Chem Supply Australia, I can do that in my advanced search. There you go. Make sure that you're switched to vendor, which is something that I didn't do. And you can see that I have over 2,000 results for my Chem Supply Australia. This is, if you're searching by a vendor, it's a little bit, it won't be as specific. So I, in this case, would just recommend search by the material name and then filter it by the specific vendor. It will be a bit better. But you can see that you can also search by hazard rating. If you have a specific document, to search by specific document number, part number, dangerous good class, and so on. Query Builder. This function is only available for your own search. What this allows you to do is it allows you to build a specific query and then search by it in your own folders. So for example, how we can get started is, again, click on this add button. And here you can see we have a number of drop down options that you can choose from. So for example, let's go, I want to search by a specific H code. I want to see if any of my materials in my folders have this specific H code. So let's go H225. And let's just say I want to search by another query at the exact same time. So what I can do is I click on this plus button and you can see that it branches off. And in this case, let's search by a regulatory list. For the regulatory list, I will just go random. So I will filter by country and let's just go drug schedule. We'll have a look what comes up. So here I've just done a little bit of filtering and I can see that I have, what's my schedule? I can click a couple. So for my regulatory list, you can pick and choose. And let's just go save. So I did just choose quite a few random ones. Don't think I will get a result, but that's okay. We'll see if we do. And the most important thing is when you are searching by one or more query, you need to make sure that you have this switched to all. So what this essentially is telling me is that I'm searching by this query and this query at the same time. The chance that you have a material that fits both of these very specific queries is very low. So what you need to do is just click once on end and it will switch to all. So in this case, you're searching either by this or this. So let's just give this query, I can do h plus reg. And what this little option is telling me, share, I can share my query with other people or with other users in my domain who have access to Query Builder. So in this case, we can just go share. If you want to keep it private, just don't click this and let's click save. So now we're just going to choose a location. So we're going to want to search throughout my all folders and let's click search. So I can see that I have a result straight away and how I can know which query it gave me a result for is if I hover my mouse over this eye icon and I can see that it fits within this H code. So acetone has this H code right here, as well as the regulatory list. So I did get lucky with that. If you want to export a list for your results or the matches that you get, this little icon right here, if I click on it, it will allow me to download an Excel list. And this is what it would look like. So I can see that this is the results that I have, acetone, the vendor name, and what it's fit in, which query it has a result for. So that is essentially how Query Builder works. And now I think that we've covered everything. I would just show a couple things how we can move materials around, how we can add some, say, like notes and attachments to materials, and then we'll go to our risk assessment. So to move materials around, for example, what you can do is you can either, so right click, move, actually, wait, and then right click, say paste. Let's have a look. I think I'm trying to paste it to the exact same folder. Let's just say I'm trying to move my benzene. So if I can do right click, move, right click, paste. So that just moved my material to the other folder. You can do the exact same by essentially just dragging and dropping it like this. You can do the same with the folders. So if I want to just move my folders around, I can just drag and drop it. And wherever I drop it, that's where the folder will come down under. I'm just going to move it back now. So if I right click on my folder, I have the options. So again, to copy, move, paste, rename. So any folders you need to rename, you can do that. Remove. Print tree essentially just prints out a PDF version of your folder structure that you right clicked on. Item history. This is a useful option that usually only advanced users and domain administrators will have access to. It shows you the history of what materials were added to the folder when the folder was created, who it was created by, and so on. So if someone accidentally adds a material that's not meant to be in your folder, you can actually have a look at it with this function here, which for some reason does not want to work. Oh, there you go. So I can see that I've just moved my folder around. I've added my acetone in this folder, for example, and so on. And obviously, so if you want to edit the folder, you can do that via right-clicking on folder properties. Now, if I right click on my material, the options that I have are similar. So I've got copy, move, remove. You can also add a preferred vendor as well as a preferred name to the material. So for example, let's just say my acetone, I use it as my nail polish remover. And that's how I know the material by the name. So if I just click on my add preferred name, add new, I can just click English. I can see that I've used that before, but if I add my nail polish remover and go back to my room, now I can see that this is how it shows up on my screen. Please note that obviously you are not editing the vendor SDS, you're only adding the preferred name to the gold SDS. So if I click on my gold SDS, I will see this name that I've just added. So my preferred name reflected on the gold SDS. You can see this here. And similarly, you can add a preferred vendor to the gold SDS if you would like to. So with the option here. You can also add a part number. So any internal number that you know the material by, you can add it as a user part number. And you can also add notes. So is dangerous to the material. And you can see that any notes created, if you have this column right here, if I click on it, it will show up here. You can also add attachments. So any external attachments, you can add them right here. And I think that is just the main points of right clicking on the photo, on the material. I think, yeah, that's about it. So I don't think we've missed anything for home. So now let's go to our risk assessment, and we'll cover the two different modes of our risk assessment. So risk assessment, essentially the products that you have in your manifest will already be in risk assessment. So you can't add any new materials from risk assessment. That has to be from home, but you'll see, so all the folders are the same as in home and all the materials in them as well. So as mentioned before, we have two different types of modes. We have ILO, which is associated with health implications, and it stands for the International Labour Organization. And we have UN, so it stands for United Nations, and it's to do with storage of items classified as dangerous goods. So first, we'll be going through the ILO. I'm just going to take a quick sip of water. Apologies. All right. So I think actually I do have my controls on. Let me just turn everything off quickly. And no. Okay, there you go. My controls are off. Okay, wonderful. So how we can get started in doing the risk assessment. So I can see that I did just edit it a little bit, but for my status, any new risk assessments will have the review required tick here. Any non-hazardous or non-dangerous good materials will have the assessment not required status, so you essentially don't need to do a risk assessment for them. But any with the red tick, you do. So you can see that by default, so the Chemwatch calculates the hazard rating as a 2 and the risk band as a 2. And this is dependent on these fields, these parameters in between here. So as we start adjusting these, you'll see that the risk band will start changing as well. So first, what we need to do is just expand with the expand button here to find this little padlock. So we need to first unlock the risk assessment, and that will allow us to start editing it. So first thing for ILO, this is task defined, so we need to first add our task. So if I just click on my task here, I can see that I've got 16 categories here. So I can do, say, mixing. I can turn that on. If I'm doing transferring, so say bottle filling or drum filling, I can do this here as well. But in this case, we'll just leave it as, let's say we'll do transferring, bottle filling. Number 16, this is user defined. So any, I guess, tasks that you aren't able to find, you can add your own through here. So if I just right click on this, turn it on, and I can actually just add a task here. We'll leave it as bottle filling for now. Then the next parameter that we need to edit is our operating temperature. So we can see that the state of the material is already chosen for us, so liquid. And the operating temperature is essentially what temperature will you be working in when you're doing this bottle filling. So essentially it would just be room temperature, so I can do it, I don't know, 17 degrees, for example. Leave that here. You can also just move this, kind of leave it around. And I think I can, I'll just type in 17 to be more specific. There you go. Volatility and dustiness, you don't really need to be touching this unless you're working in high pressures, and the system will calculate it for you automatically as well. If you do want to edit it, you just have to unlock this as well, and it will allow you to change it. Now, scale of use and frequency of use, this is what will mostly be determining our risk band. So scale of use, with what volumes will you be working with when you're completing this task? So if I just click on this, I can choose, so between microliters, milliliters, liters, and tons. So say I'll be doing liters. As soon as I clicked on liters, if you notice that the risk band now jumped up from a 2 to a 3. So the system is constantly adjusting based on these parameters right here. So I guess the higher volume you're working with and the more often you complete this task, the more dangerous it will be to your health, or the more concerns will be with health implications. And for my frequency of use, how often will I be doing this task? So I can say if I do it weekly, again, it'll go back down to a 2. But if I do this daily, and it will take me 1 to 4 hours like this, the risk will be a 3. And that's about it for now. That's it. So once we've got our parameters set, the next thing that we need to do is apply our controls. So the aim of risk assessment is essentially to apply controls and try to decrease the risk as much as possible. So when you click on the controls, what the system will do is it will highlight in green the control that it recommends for you to turn on. So you don't have to listen to this recommendation. You can go on based on your own expertise and turn on controls that you think are necessary. So for example, if I think the general ventilation is enough, I can just turn it on and it will be fine. However, please note that if you are turning on a control less than what is recommended, the risk won't decrease. So if I turn this off, you can turn on, say, these higher ones if you'd like to, and you can see that the risk decreases. But if I will apply only these ones, then it will remain as is. So let me just turn on my local exhaust or the fume hood. And then for my PPE, so I already had some turned on, but I can see that, again, this little green dot, that's what is recommended to me by Chemwatch. So I can just turn them on. If not, I can kind of do my own ones if I would like to, submit. And if there's any training required, I can turn this on. So if I'd like people to be training for this task, since I do think, again, it poses some sort of a risk to health, so I do want to turn this on. And now once we're done, so also if there's any discharge when you're doing this task into air, water, or land, you can turn these on. So for example, if you're using a pesticide, it will turn on air as an example. Then to close off my risk assessment, just lock the lock and it says, is your assessment completed? Yes. So the risk assessment data has been successfully saved. Now to access my risk assessment report, just click on this report button here. And this is what our risk assessment looks like for my acetone. So you can see that the risk assessment report is colored based on the risk this time. So since it is a 1, which is low, it is color coded in blue. So you can see that any controls that I've adopted, they will be shown here. So I can see that I've turned on my local exhaust fume hood and training required. I've got my ingredients, Chemwatch hazard ratings, so I can see that I've got training required and my personal protective equipment turned on here. Health hazards, hazard statements, any persons who are potentially at risk. And we have our pictograms, precautionary statements of prevention and response. If I keep scrolling down at the very bottom, we have a section that we call approvals. So here you can fill in this information, so such as your code, job name, number of people exposed, who is assessed by and approved by, and operating procedure. So where you can fill this in is just up here. If I click on my approvals, I can fill this out. So for example, job name, I can just fill it in. Also, please make note that, again, you do have to have privileges to have access to this. So not everyone will have this. Code, just random code. Assessed by, do Bob Manager as an example. Then you can also add your signature by choosing a file. Approved by Lisa Manager as an example. You can also add another signature. How many people was I working with at the time? Say, let's say 3. And operating procedure, PPE. Then I can click submit, and the section below will be populated. So here's what it looks like. And now if I would like to, say, print this off, this is what a risk assessment report will look like. And you can also see that it is for bottle filling job name, and this is where the location is. And you can also translate the risk assessment report as well, if you would like to. Now let's go to our UN, which is the different mode of the risk assessment. Now, before we get started, if you notice that for the same material, the hazard rating and the risk band are higher than it was in ILO. So if you remember in ILO, it was a 2 and a 2 originally. But here, without touching anything, we have a 3 and a 3. So why that is because in the UN module, sorry, we're taking the physical hazards into consideration. So since acetone is a highly flammable item, this will result in a higher hazard rating and a risk band. So again, to get started on editing the risk assessment, let's just expand and unlock the padlock. So for this, the task is only storage. So since again, it is to do with storage. So you can either do general storage or open bulk. So we'll do general storage for now. Then what is the temperature that the material will be stored at? So we can do similar, so say 18. Scale of storage. So again, how many liters, milliliters we're storing. So we can do liters. And now the risk band jumped up to a 4. So again, we need to click on controls and apply the appropriate controls in order to lower the risk. So for this one, have you considered flammability, chemical explosion, explosive atmosphere? Any comments that you would like to add, you can add them here. And you will notice that there is more things to consider for UN mode, as well as the controls are more thorough, just because again, you have to consider more parameters. Have you completed a compliance check? You can say yes. Controls, so we have auxiliary controls, engineering controls, and administrative controls. So if I click on them, and I can just kind of go through them. So yep, that sounds good. I can just turn it on, kind of skipping through it. Engineering controls, again, I'm just going to turn them all on. So say I've turned them on. And administrative controls. So turn on. So pretend I'm just reading through it and going through this here. Review PPE. Here we provide these two documents that you can read if you'd like to for this risk assessment. And once we're done, any discharge for this, nope, we can close up the risk assessment and complete it. Do you want to copy the relevant data over to the other modes? Essentially what that's saying is what we've just put in, do we want to copy it over to the ILO? We'll say no, because we've already done it, and we can complete it. So then to access our risk assessment report, again, click on the report button. And this is what it looks like. So since the risk is a 2, it is yellow, so it will be color coded in yellow. And again, any controls adopted, they will be shown here. So very similar, and we've got the approval section just at the bottom here as well. So that is risk assessment in an overview. Here we can also filter it by this. We're filtering by risk assessments, but we can also switch to jobs, and it will show you risk assessments grouped or materials grouped in the tasks that you have given them. I'm probably not going to find a specific one because we have a lot of duplicates here with a lot of deleted materials, but that's essentially what it will do. Then if I go back to my risk assessment, since I prefer this option here, you can also, if you do have the same material in different folders that requires the same kind of controls, I guess, or yeah, same controls, you can actually copy them over, so you don't have to do them again and again, if that makes sense. So to copy them over, you can just do right click, copy, and then right click, paste, and the controls will actually paste over. Let's have a look. And you can also similarly just print, share, download, or run the report on this risk assessment data. And I think that is essentially it for our risk assessment. So how much time do we got? We have 20 minutes. So what we can do is now I'll quickly go through these modules here. So DGen Lab and Credo, which will not take too long. And then I'll have a look if we have any questions on the chat, and I'll go through them as well. So for a DGen Lab, as mentioned before, so you can edit labels as well as create them from scratch. So create your own. So first, what we want to do is we want to add our material in. So the one that we want to populate the label with. So let's just say we want to add this one here. And then we'll go to gallery. So now let's just say I was happy with the label that I used or that I generated before, but I just want to change a couple of elements. So essentially when you go to the edit function, this is what it would look like. And to make it easier, I can just click on preview mode, which will populate the elements that I have here. So just I can see what I'm working with. So let me just delete a couple of elements here. I can just move these around to say look like this. And I also want to add a QR code for my vendor SDS. So for my QR code, let's go barcode, choose QR code, and here we can do external vendor document link. There you go, save. Here's my QR code. So essentially anyone who scans this, it will open up their vendor SDS. Oh, there you go. And I can just add that one just here, for example. I can also add a bit of text. Let's just use the text and just as an example, we can just leave that here. I just have to make it a little bit, it's a little bit hard. there you go. So just made it a bit higher and just leave this here. So I said this is all I wanted to do just for my label. Just change it up a bit. That's what I'm happy with. So I can either also save this template into the database. Any templates that are saved from DGen Lab, they will show up in the user-defined tab, which I will show in a bit. So let's just say plus QR code, save. And then if I go to print, I can just fill in the detail. So just pretty much populate the label here, and this is my finished label. So essentially this is just what I wanted to do, just change these elements here a bit and add the vendor SDS, add the QR code for my vendor SDS. Now, if I go back to home quickly and say I want to do the exact same thing but for a different material, I don't need to go back to my DGen lab. So I can just click on labels, click on the material, go to my user defined, and I have, as you can see, 9+ pages of my user defined labels, and just generate this label. So again, this requires me to put in the data. And here we have the benzene, and this will be now the vendor SDS for my benzene SDS. So that's how easy it is to essentially just edit a label. You can also create ones from scratch, but that is DGen Lab in summary. And finally, for our Credo module. So Credo module, as mentioned before, it allows you to create solutions and mixtures and mini SDSs and labels for them. So for example, let's just say we already have a diluted acetone solution, but we're gonna create another one. So acetone solution, and we can do brackets, say 20%. Then I won't fill in any of this, but I will leave manufacturer details just empty for now. Now, the most important section for Credo is creditary posterior. What this is where you fill out your ingredients, their proportions, and the state, pH, and essentially water solubility, and any other parameters that you know of. So for this, I'm working with acetone. And then we can do, so was it 20%? And then water and 80%. Then for my state, we know it's a liquid. We know it is miscible. pH, I'm not actually sure, but we can just type in, I don't know, between 6 and say 7.0. And any other parameters, you can just add them here. Appearance and so on. To review ingredients, you can do this here. So this will show you any H codes associated with the ingredient or with the ingredient that you've just entered. You can also do a sanitized view if you'd like. So essentially you can just hide the ingredients that you enter from the public view. Review classification. Here the system calculates H codes based on the ingredients that you put in. So you can see that this is the generated H codes. If you don't agree with them, simply just untick them and you can enter your own ones. So they will be known as user defined. So again, you do not have to listen to the system's recommendations. This is just there for you if you need. You can add your own ones. And if this material or the solution that you're creating is a dangerous good solution, any information you can put in here. You can also use the suggest tool. So it will suggest you the information that you can populate it with if you're not sure. But for now, we'll just click submit and we'll see what we've just created. Nearly there. So now it automatically opens the mini SDS for me. So this is what we've created. So as you can see, we've got the acetone, water, GHS, pictogram, dangerous good, and it does look a lot more dangerous just because I did add random H codes. and you can see any PPE associated with it, emergency first aid, and safe storage with other classified chemicals. And once you create your solution, you can also generate labels from it. So based on the default templates or the user defined templates. We also have a list of concern here. So it shows you, say, any list of concern regulatory lists that acetone showing up on, as well as water. So yeah, that is Credo in summary. I think, let me have a look. I don't think we've missed anything else. I think we might be done with our session. So let me have a look now if there's any questions on the chat. Please, any questions about any of the topics or the functions that we've talked about, send them through since we do have a little bit of time left. And can have a look. That the first question I have is, I checked and found that I don't have an option to create folder under manifest. How can I get access to create the folder? So I'm assuming that either you don't have permissions to that specific location, or you are just a basic user. You will need to get in contact with your domain administrator. So we do get a lot of queries on live help chat. So saying that, I want to create a folder, but I don't have that option. What do I need to do? We as live help chat, our team, we can't actually edit anything from our side unless we have the permission directly from the domain administrator. So just get in contact with your domain administrator. If you're not sure who that is, send a request or send a query on live help chat. We can check from our side to see if we know. If not, you can also send an email to our customer service. So that is essentially what you need to do in this case. So yeah, in order to be able to edit the folder, you do need read-write access. And basic users, they have usually read access. So that means that you can see the content in the folder, but you can't create new folders or edit the materials in them. So I hope that makes sense. Any other questions, please send them through. Otherwise, we'll be ending this session shortly. So I'll wait a couple more minutes if any other questions come through. If not, just send us an email. We can always get back to you. So otherwise, thank you so much everyone for joining. I hope you found this session useful and interesting. And yeah, hope you guys have a good rest of your evening. So thank you so much.